Well, hello everybody. I'm doing some last minute technical things here, but we're here and come on in. We're looking to share with you tonight. And all right. Well, hello everybody. All right. Doing some last minute technical things here, but we're all right. Well, we're live now and doing some new things we're trying out here, but we're getting started tonight. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the live stream tonight. And I'm excited about what is taking place and what is going on. Grateful for each and every one of you that are joining us on tonight for this particular ministry with the Evangelist, the ministry of the Evangelist with Pastor Dennis Martin. And I'm excited tonight to be able to share with you and to be able to just have this time with you every Wednesday night. Of course, we always here, and those of you that have joined us, as you come in tonight, please just let me know where you're joining from, where you are viewing us from, where you're being a part of this from as we do our session tonight, our lesson tonight, and to share with you on tonight. Many of you have asked, well, Pastor Martin, how can I get in touch with you? Or how can I reach you? You can reach me. The information is on the screen tonight. I put it on the screen with the email and all of that. The rrcdmartin@gmail.com. Or you can go to the website, dlmartin.org, and reach us as we will be sharing tonight. And I want you, as you come in, to share this with someone else. Please hit the share button or let us share this information as much tonight as we're going to be talking about preparing for life after our evangelistic ministry. And I know it's going to bless those of you. And as you come in again, please let me know where you are tuning in from, where you are watching this stream from, what state, and want to just say that tonight is going to be very awesome. It's something that I'm very passionate about on tonight. And I'll tell you why as we get started in tonight's lesson. So as you come in, please let me know again where you're watching from. Please share this with someone as we're going to be sharing this with you tonight. And we're going to get started. We're not going to prolong and be long with this, but we'll get started tonight. And those of you that have come in tonight, I want to talk about preparing for life after our evangelistic ministry. And there are those that will watch this live, and then there's some that watch it after they get back from services at church. But I want to talk tonight about this part of ministry and preparing for life after evangelistic ministry. There is a reality in life, and that is that time waits on no man. Time waits on no one. No matter who we are, time does not wait on anybody. Time does not wait on no man. And that is the reality that we must deal with. And that is that time waits on no man. The other reality is every day brings about a change. All of us must understand and know that nothing, absolutely nothing remains the same. Everything you deal with, everything you see, everything we're going through, nothing remains the same. You can look at photos of yourself from maybe even 5 years ago, and you can see that nothing remains the same. Things have changed and there are things that have changed about all of us. So nothing remains the same as we go through life, as we deal with life. Nothing remains the same. And so I want us to be able to understand that and to deal with that as we look at it and see that nothing remains the same. And so when we start thinking about that, that nothing remains the same, it should give us somewhat to understand that if nothing remains the same, then we've got to deal with some things to understand that we have nothing that is going to remain the same. Nothing will be the same. Nothing is going to be the same at all. And we have to deal with that, that nothing remains the same. And so it is in that we talk about and we have this discussion. Now, what I found out is most of the time we don't want to have the discussion about this. We don't want to have the discussion about preparing for things after, because there's sometimes we believe that things are just going to continue the same way all the time. And when we read in the Bible in 2 Kings chapter 20 and verse 1, you remember the Bible said in those days Hezekiah was sick unto death. And when the prophet came to him, he said, set thine house in order, for thou wilt surely die. Now, of course, tonight we're not talking about dying. We're not talking about anybody dying. That's not where we're heading with this. But we are talking about preparing for life after an evangelistic ministry, after you've been on the field, after you've traveled, after you've been there. We want to discuss and talk about preparing. And even now, while you're on the field and while things are going the way they're going, we want to talk about preparing and being prepared for the after, I don't want to say after life, but after the evangelistic ministry, because again, nothing remains the same. Nothing remains the same. And all of us must deal with the reality that we are not going to be in demand all the time. You're not going to be the spotlight. You're not going to be in the spotlight of ministry. And this happens in every profession it happens, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whatever it may be. You have those that have been at the top for so long and they've been there and they've been in demand. But then there comes a time that you find that they're no longer in demand like that. They may have some things that they do, some shows that they do, but they're not in demand the way they used to be. And so that's a part of what happens. You find those that even do that are singers, whether they're gospel or whether they're secular, they're not always in demand. And what you find is sometimes they got a schedule where they're always going. And then there are those sometimes you hear them and they'll say, well, I haven't been anywhere for a long time because no one's called them, or even their agents couldn't get them booked because they're no longer in that demand. They're not in that spotlight. And even athletes, after they have left playing professional football, some of them, after they leave, they haven't really prepared for life after that. And you'll find many of them getting in trouble. You'll find many of them that are incarcerated and things that are going on with them because they did not prepare for life after their particular vocation or their particular sports or their particular thing that they were doing. They did not prepare. And so it's important for us to understand that we must prepare for certain things. It must be preparation must be given. And when we understand that, we're going to do a better job at doing the things we need to do. So preparation is very important for us to understand and how we deal with it. And so nothing remains the same. We've got to understand that this happens in every profession, no matter who it is, no matter what it is. It's something that happens. It's something that takes place. And we have to understand that it is a part of what we're doing. And the reality is many people, after an outstanding evangelistic ministry on the road, when they get older, if they have not prepared, you find that they'll find that life after the road, after evangelistic ministry, they find themselves with no income or means of living, or they're trying to do stuff that maybe they shouldn't be doing because now they've gotten older and they don't even have the energy or the strength to do it. But they got to do it because they did not prepare for when the day would come when they would not be doing so. And so it's important for us to get this, and it's important for us to understand that there is a life after these things in ministry, and some things we're going to have to deal with, and we have to share, and we have to deal with them to understand that these things will take place. And so, excuse me here just a minute. Let me do something real quick. I'm trying something new, and I want to make sure that I get it done. And there we go. All right. And get back into what we're doing. So now they must prepare for the ministry, prepare for what will not be after today, because you have to understand that sometimes it's not going to be, it's going to be different. And so there is preparation that must be given, preparation that you must do for after evangelistic ministry. And so tonight I want to just give a few suggestions and a few things that I think will bless you, a few things that I think will help you, and a few things for you to consider and have consideration in that will help you, those of you that are on the field, those of you that you're coming off the field, whatever it may be, that will give you consideration to help you, just to suggestions to help you to think about some things that you may want to start doing, some things that you might want to do now, some things that you may need to do that will help you to be able to do the things you need to do. And so, number one, I want you to consider taking some of the money that you're making now and putting it away and investing it for when you are older, or when the time comes that you're not on the field any longer. I want you to consider taking some of the money that you are making now in revivals or whatever you're doing, and take it and invest it or put it away, that you will have some money put away and saved up, where when you get off the field and you're not on the field any longer, you won't be around looking, trying to find somewhere to go or something to do so somebody can help you. I want you to consider at least putting $100 away a week or a month, or more if possible, whatever you have, so you can be able to do those things. When I was on the field, there was a young man in Memphis that said, "I want to put you in a Mercedes." And when he said put me in a Mercedes, what he was really saying to me is, I want to put you and get you where you will have, he wanted me to have what they would take out in a policy every month. They would deduct $100 from my account. And over the years, it added up. It kept adding up. And when I looked at it, it had added up from the time he had started at a deduction to over, I think it's almost $20,000 or something. And so I say to you that you must put money away, because you're not going to be making money like that all the time. So you need to start putting money away. Don't just waste your money and just waste it. Start putting the money away. Start doing things with the money that you need done. Start putting the money away. It's important that you would do this and start putting this money, investing this money and putting it away. Many times I found out that what happens to us is we will use this money and we'll take it and we'll keep doing things with it, and we'll buy things, expensive things with it, and we'll keep doing that, and not understanding that when we're doing that, that at the end you can have all that you put into it but then have no money left. So start considering again, number one, putting some money away, putting money away now. If you go to revival, you don't have to spend all the money that you make. Put it away. Start investing in an investment, or take it and put it away, or allow where there's $100 a week, $200 a week, whatever you make. Put that money away. Take it, put it where you can't touch it. Put it where you can't get a hold to it and just use it and spend it and waste it, because you're going to need it eventually at the end. And so I want you to consider that on tonight. Number two, I want you to consider looking into other streams of income besides speaking engagements. If you have a trade or vocation that you can do, you need to look into doing other things also, not just preaching, not just speaking. I know sometimes there are those that are real busy. They don't have to do that. But sometimes there are those that you're not in that kind of demand, and you may want to look at something that you already do, whatever it may be, and start looking at other streams of income besides just speaking engagement, especially if you got speaking engagements that are, they wide out and they're not right together. you need to start looking into that and start to see how that's going to affect you or how that's going to work. And so you want to do that. You want to be able to look into other streams of income. How can you do it? And I'm not talking about where you basically work on a regular job. Some of you, if that's something, that's another thing, you can. But there are other ways that you can make income besides speaking engagement. And there are others that do that. There are others of us that do that. And so I want you to look into doing that. There are other things that can bring in income, and in your downtime, when you don't have a revival, you can find other ways that you can literally be making money, and you're not, making money literally while you're asleep. Or there are other ways of making income. So you've got to work on that. You've got to deal with that. And so I want you to start looking into that, making a way to look into other streams of income to make money in your downtime that will help you to maintain your life and to maintain what you're doing every day and the things that are happening. You need to be able to do that, because if you don't do it, what you'll find is that sometimes you'll be complaining and finding fault when you should just use the time or the downtime, all that time to really be able to maintain your life by using another source of income, other streams of income. Now, when I look at things, when I'm not doing preaching engagements, or if I'm not preaching, I got other streams of income that are coming in that I deal with, other streams of income that happen. And so I do other things. I do voiceovers. Sometimes I make money from voiceovers. I do graphics, layout. Sometimes people, I host websites and build websites for people. I do video editing, where I've done video editing, where I've done editing for whole plays, and even for weddings and other things, even to the extent of even when have some real downtime, taking pictures for weddings and then doing the wedding book or the wedding album. And so you've got to make sure that you understand that there is other income, there are other sources of income that you could do, and other streams of income that you can do. And these things that I learned, I had no idea that I would be doing them at this time. But what happened was, when I was probably about 11 or 12 years old, my uncle used to have a radio broadcast, and he had me to do his broadcast. He had me to do the voiceovers for it. And now at 12, I had no idea that that would be a source of income for me when I got to be this age. But it has been, simply because you can have another stream of income coming in if you do that. So many of us, we've got to have another stream of income coming in. And so you need to consider looking into other things just besides preaching. And there's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, there's some people that work on a regular job. I know some people that work on a regular job during the week, and they evangelize during the weekend, and then they're back on their regular job doing on Monday. So there's nothing wrong with that. But look into other ways of streams of income that you can be able to maintain your life during the downtime. And it will be very profitable for you and lucrative. If you can do that, it will keep you. I said, once again, I do a couple of websites for people, and they pay me. People call me for voiceovers. I get paid for that. People call me to do layouts, do programs and books and all type of things. And so that's a source of income that comes in. Why? Because that's another thing to do. And you have to make it where you understand that preaching should not just be your only source of income, because eventually that may be something that you may not be doing, or you may not be in demand for that. So I want to help you to understand how important it is for us to do that, to be able to do other streams of income. All right, number 3, we travel and we move around a lot in the world, and there is the possibility that we may get sick along the way or need medical attention. And so I want you to consider that as you're preparing for life after evangelistic ministry, and even while you're in evangelistic ministry now, I need everybody listening at me and everyone that will watch this later to really consider this and understand that you really, really, really need to look into getting some type of health insurance. You need to get some type of health insurance. If you're traveling and you're going from city to city, state to state, in different climates and stuff, you need some health insurance. You're eating in different places, different restaurants, all kind of stuff. And so you need some health insurance. You need to be able to get some health insurance. I know that it's something that we don't want to talk about, but we have to discuss this because you've got to be able to get health insurance and deal with it because you never know when you're going to need it. And I know there are those that will say, well, I can't afford health insurance. But I want to tell you, if we can afford to pay cell phone bills, if we can afford to buy expensive clothes and shoes and brag about the fact of how much we paid for them, then certainly we should be able to afford some health insurance. Because when you get sick and you've got to go into the doctor, go to the hospital, and even if you're on the road and you've got to go to the hospital, what if you were preaching and you got ill and you got sick and it was something that you couldn't wait until you got back on the plane or got back home? You need some health insurance. We need to prepare. We need to start saying, I need to do these things now. I can't wait till later. You shouldn't get all the monies that we make and then waste it on expensive clothes and shoes and stuff. And then when we get sick, we don't have a way to pay the bill. We don't have a way to pay the hospital bill. Why? Because we haven't invested in getting some health insurance or looked into getting some health insurance. It's important that we do that. We've seen too many people lately that have passed away that we've heard of stories about their health. And sometimes maybe it was just the fact that they didn't go because maybe they didn't have health insurance. And we need to take some time and invest in that to prepare for that, because you're going to be traveling. I never forget one time I was preaching when I was traveling with my uncle. I was preaching we were in Portland, Oregon, I believe it is. And I had ate something. I don't know what it was. And I got, oh my God, I got almost deathly sick. And I think it was food poisoning or something. And he had to leave because he had to go and do some TV taping in Los Angeles. And so I had to stay and preach the revival. And I have to tell you, those were 2 nights that I could barely get out, but I had to go do it. And I did go to the doctor. I had to pay for it. And so I understand the importance of us having and getting health insurance. We've got to get it, whether we want to or not, whether we want to discuss this or not, whether we want to hear it or not. We need health insurance. You've got to start preparing. Get some insurance, some health insurance on yourself. So when you're going out, you'll be able to do those things and keep yourself healthy. And when you go, you can go not only for just to be healthy, but also to be able to feel free to go to the doctor, so you'll be able to get yourself checked out. A few years ago, I went to the doctor, and when I went to the doctor, I went for my annual checkup. I would go every year just to get a checkup, and all my checkups have been fine. And then I went one particular time, and when I went this time, the nurse and all the people, they just started scrambling. And I had no idea what they were scrambling about, but they were scrambling and scrambling and scrambling. And then eventually they came back and said, we need to see you Monday. And when I went back Monday, they said, you're borderline diabetic. Now, think about it. This was maybe about 9 years ago, and I'm thinking about borderline. I was like, really? I was like, you sure you got it right? And so I was able to go. And the only reason they were able to detect that was because I was going in for an annual checkup, an annual physical. So I want to say to you, you've got to get some health insurance. If you're going to do this, if you got to start preparing this now, that it won't be something that you try to get at a late age. Start doing it now, because you never know what will be wrong. Now at that age, I was only At that time, I think I was 45, I believe, when they told me that. And at 45, that was not anything that I wanted to hear. It was not anything I was expecting. I was expecting the same report I'd got the other years. And so I was glad that I was able to go in to be diagnosed or to be told what was going on, because I started noticing some stuff, but I wasn't paying any attention to it. And like most of us, I said, I'm just going to pray. But it's better to know what's going on so you know what to pray for, and even if they have to put you on medication. So I want to say to you, get some health insurance. It's important that you get some health insurance. You really, really, really need some health insurance. So I want you to work on getting that and to consider doing that, getting health insurance. The next one, number 4, and I'm moving sort of quick tonight, not going to be long. Number 4 is, I'm sure all of us would love to live a long life, and I know I would like to live a long life, but you never know when you're going to leave here. You never know what's going to happen and what's going to happen if you pass or if you leave. And it's unfair to leave our families and friends struggling to raise money to bury us. Now, I know that this is not something that we want to talk about, but we have to have the discussion. We have to have this conversation. Whether you want to have it or not, we've got to have it, because too many of our people have passed away, and we've had to get to funerals and celebrations and raise money just to make sure they're going to be buried. And we've got to prepare. I know we say, well, I ain't leaving no money for nobody, but it's not about leaving money. It is about being prepared that if I leave here now, my family and my friends won't have to struggle to bury me. They can give me a decent burial. They can put me away. And so we have to deal with these things. It's not things that we want to talk about. And you don't hear this a lot talked about in church and different places, because everyone likes to talk about other stuff. But I want to tell you, you've got to get some life insurance. Life insurance. You need it. It's not expensive, and we've got to get it. We don't get life insurance, and we say we can't afford it, but we will go and put money on things to impress people. And we will impress them, and when we pass, or if something happens to us, then everyone's scrambling trying to see, well, how are we going to bury them? And people got to contribute. You got to call around the country. That shouldn't be something that we should do. We should be able to purchase life insurance. And what I mean by that is, a lot of us, we waste a lot of money on other stuff, but we don't put money into the things that are important that we need to put them on. And you need to leave someone with authority, the power of attorney, especially if you're not married, that can make a decision for us in cases where if you get sick or you pass, somebody can make those decisions to make sure that your remains or whatever will be taken care of and you'll be put away properly. And so it's important that we get life insurance and do these things. I know, again, it's just not a conversation we want to have. No one wants to talk about it, but we've got to talk about it. We've got to talk about it. If you're going to prepare for life after, then you've got to start putting things away now. The thing that I appreciate about my grandmother and those that were raised me, I remember when the insurance man, you didn't pay stuff online. I remember when the insurance man used to come to your house with the little black thing, and he would write your things down, your payments, your premiums. And I remember my grandmother would say, if anything ever happens to me, look under the mattress. The insurance policy is under the mattress. And they had money. They religiously paid premiums for life insurance for burial, just to make sure, even if they leave you no money, they were going to make sure that you put them away. And so I want you to understand that we've got to do that. My late uncle that passed in 2015, when he turned 70, because he had traveled all his life and he'd been on the road, and there were others, he had some insurance on himself, some others that put some insurance on him. But I said to him when he was in town, because I knew he traveled, I said, I need you to come. And I had the agent to meet me at my church. And I brought him in, And at the age of 70, I put him in an insurance policy, a life insurance policy. So if anything ever happened to him, that we would be able to bury him and without have to go through a lot of things. Now, because he was already 70, the insurance policy was not real high, but it was higher probably than you would pay for myself or someone else. But I felt that I needed to do it. And for 5 years, I paid his policy. He died at 75, but I paid for his policy every month, made sure it was paid, just to make sure that when, if anything happened to him, that I would be able to bury him. And so what happened when he passed, when my cousin called and told me that he had passed, the first thing I did after calling the home and letting them know, I called the insurance company and informed them that he had passed, and the rest of it was a breeze. And so when we got to the day of the homecoming and all that, we didn't have to, put a GoFundMe account. We put one, but it wasn't for that. We didn't have to raise money to bury him because I made sure, I took it personal that I would bury him and make sure, because of his legacy, because of who he was, and because of his life that he had given on the field, I didn't want it to be said that the late, great Gene Martin has to have someone raising offerings for him, or we have to raise an offering to bury him. I wanted to make sure that I put him away nice and that it was paid for. And so I'm not saying that for browning points. I'm not saying that to make anybody feel bad either. But I'm saying to you that if something happens to us, we should be set up and have it where people can, put us away. If something happened to me right now, my family would be able to put me away. They would be able to bury me without have to go through a lot of changes about it, because I've got it set up that way. I believe it's important for us to do that. And that's a part of preparing for what we have to do. That's the part that we don't want to talk about, but it is a part that we must prepare for. And we got to start doing that now. You don't wait till you get, 70, 75, and 80 to start saying, well, I got to look into some insurance. You need to do that now. I know, I plan on living a long time. All of us plan on it, but we just never know. Like I said, we've had cases where we've seen in the last few weeks of young men passing away, 33, 36. Oh my God. And there's young people that we were not expecting to leave. And so we've got to start preparing and getting some life insurance. It's important that we do so. Oh, I see some of you here. God bless you. Amen. We need some health insurance, some life insurance, and to get those things, so we can get those people helped. And those that, some people that life insurance, burial insurance, whatever you want to call it, you need some insurance. It's important that you get it, because if you don't have it, then people have got to struggle to bury you. Let me also, here we are, let's get to, let's see. Oh, number 5. While we're at the top of our game, busy preaching and making money, we need to try to invest into buying something, a house or a place that we can call home, that when we are no longer in demand, when we're no longer busy, that we would have put some time in and almost paid it off, that we can have a place after we're not doing these things anymore. One of the things that happens is many times we travel around the country and we have great followings and we have great revivals and we raise big offerings, and then you come home and then you have no place to stay. And after time is up and no one's calling you like they used to, now you don't have a place to live. And so you got to start investing. And I want to put emphasis on this because it's important for us to get it. We got to start investing in more than clothes and shoes and suits, because those things are good, but you need to invest in something that you can look at as something that you have accomplished in as far as purchasing. And that is to buy a house or whatever it may be, condo, whatever, but to purchase it, some with your name on it, to buy it and to do it. we make too much. We've done too much not to be able to do this. I purchased my house about 20 years ago from showing my income from being an evangelist. I'd only been pastoring 6 months. And when I went to purchase the house, 6 months I've been pastoring. So that wasn't income, because when I first got to where I was, it was only 8 people there. So that wasn't the income. The first day that I preached, they gave me $36. That was the offering we raised. And I went to, I think, to the KFC, and me and my family got something to eat. But understand that my income, when I went to purchase the house, they did not base my purchase of the house off the income from the church. They based it off what I did when I was an evangelist, because I filed income tax. Yes, I filed income tax returns as an evangelist, and it showed proof of my income. It showed proof of what I was able to do. When I was not pastoring, I was able to buy cars and stuff because I filed income tax. I had proof of income that was coming in, and so I was able to do it. So I'm saying that while you're doing all this, start investing in something that you can look at, put your hands on. And if you want a house, some of you may not want the house, and that's up to you. I'm just saying that you need to start looking at things and just don't throw our monies away and then at the end. And I say this because you see a lot of, I don't know if you looked at documentaries where they have a lot of these football players and different ones that were making, I mean, millions of dollars. I mean, when I say millions, they were making millions of dollars. They showed one documentary of one young man that broke my heart. He was signed for $5 million. He was making $5 million a year plus. And he bought houses in Florida. He bought houses in another city, and then he had like 5 or 6 different expensive cars in the driveway. He bought a restaurant and something else, but he didn't know how to manage his money, and he allowed other people to manage his money and to deal with his money. And so at the end, when he was no longer making that kind of money and the team released him and he lost these places, what happened to him was he ended up living in hotels. He ended up living in places and staying with relatives with no more cars and no more anything. And so I say to you that while we are healthy and doing what we're doing, let's use our money wisely. Let's prepare for life after this, because I mean, to go and buy some Gucci and all that, that's wonderful. But there's going to come a day that you won't be able to just go do that unless you've been invested your money and dealt with your money properly. So you must deal with your money the right way, and go buy some things, go get some things that you can look back on. I remember someone saying to me about purchasing land, and this was a statement, I believe it was Bishop Wells, the general board member, said this to me. He said, Brother Martin, he said, you need to go buy you some land. And I said, why I need to do that, Bishop? He said, well, because the man that made land is no longer making it. And if you've got land, you've got wealth. If you've got property, you got wealth. Whether you, if you don't even stay in it, if you own it, you got wealth, because somebody may come along and buy it from you, and you may never have to work the rest of your life. So you've got to make an investment in other things besides clothes and shoes and stuff. You've got to look to invest in some other things. Put it where it counts, that at the end of the day, you'll have something left. And I pray and trust that you're getting this, because that's very important for us to do, is to have where we've got to put our monies and get some land. I know a couple of my friends that own properties, and they retired. They said, I'm done. I retired. And they have income coming in, steady income coming in every month because of the fact. And I know there's some that would say, but the Lord would take care of me. I know that's true. I believe that. But it does not take away from the fact that we need to plan, and we need to put something in place that when time is up and when you're no longer in the spotlight and in demand, that you have something that you can deal with. I'm just about through number 6, and this is the last one, and I believe one of the most important things that I want to share with you tonight is preparing yourself mentally and emotionally to know that you and I will not be in the spotlight forever. And that goes for, that goes for young and old. You're not going to be in the spotlight forever. You're not going to be on flyers forever. You're not going to be keynote speaker forever. You're not going to be the ones that they always calling. I know right now it just seems like it, but take it from me. I've lived long enough to know and to see those that were way up there. I mean, so up you can't even see them where my hand is. But then eventually things changed and they were no longer there, and they had to deal with that mentally and emotionally. And it had nothing to do with the anointing. Don't mean you're not anointed anymore. It's just the fact of the way things can change around you, the way things can change where people call, they may be calling somebody else where you would do. I know revivals that I did, oh my God, 10 years in a row, or, just 10 straight years or 12 straight years. Every year was an annual thing. And then eventually they may call and say, well, Brother Martin, we're going to do something different this year. And maybe I've been back, maybe I haven't been back. Well, that's just something you have to deal with. Things change like that. And you have to start preparing yourself mentally and emotionally for that. And understand, again, that it has nothing to do with your anointing. Doesn't have whether you're anointed or not. It is just the fact that things will change. You won't be in the spotlight. I remember when I was 21, when someone told me they were 57, I thought that was old. Well, I'm sure now if I tell somebody I'm 57 and they're younger, they think I'm old. But it's just the thing. You've got to understand that we must start preparing for this. You're not going to do it always. Even as you get older, you'll find there are different things that change about just your body, that change about the way you are. There's certain things you can do. Now, when you're young, even as a preacher or singer, there's certain notes you can hit. I mean, you can hit them and don't think twice about them. But as you start getting older and things start taking place, there's certain notes you can't hit anymore. I listen to people sometimes preach and sing. And sometimes there's notes that they could hit 10 years ago. They can't hit that note no more. And they dumb it down a little bit, but they still sing the song or do whatever, but they don't hit that note anymore because over time, the body has wore down and things have happened. And so mentally that affects people. And if you don't start preparing yourself mentally and emotionally concerning these things, believe you me, it will take effect on you. It'll make you start saying to yourself, well, what's going on? What's happening? And so you've got to say to yourself that I'm dealing with this mentally and emotionally because I understand that I will not be in this place always. I will not be in the limelight. I will not be in the spotlight. I'm going to be a time that I'm going to be, I won't be in demand. And whether you believe it or not, that's what's going on a lot today. When you look at some people that were in demand, when I say in demand, what I call demand is whenever they would go somewhere, they would pack places out. People would call them. Their schedule was full. Things were going on. So what you find starts to happen is because they haven't dealt with that emotionally or mentally to deal with the fact that that's after that time, then they start doing things, whether they are right or not, to get attention. And they start doing all kind of crazy stuff just to get attention. And when they start doing that, you understand that it is an attention getter. That's all they're doing. They want attention because they're used to that limelight. They're used to what they've seen before. Now they're not getting it anymore. So if you're going to deal and start preparing for life after the evangelistic ministry, especially those that are full-time, mentally and emotionally, you have to start preparing yourself for this. You have to start saying to yourself, I've got to prepare myself for the shift in my life and the other phase of my life. You got to start. And I take this to heart because all of us are getting older, and I want us to enjoy, those of you that are youth, enjoy your youthfulness, enjoy being a youth. But even in your youth, start preparing for the day that you're getting older, because every day we're getting older. I don't care if you're 21, eventually you're going to be 22, and then you'll be 23. The next thing you know, you'll be 33. The next thing you know, you'll be 43. The next thing you know, you'll be 53. And before you know it, you'll be 60 and saying, where did the time go? So you don't want to waste your time in your youth where you're not preparing and being productive. So you want to do some things even in your youth to start preparing for the future or for later. I take this to heart, and I'm through. I say this to you tonight because my uncle, the late Evangelist Gene Martin, he traveled over 54 years full time in ministry. Started when he was 21 and he passed at 75. And at 75, he was still on the road traveling. And the only reason he was not on the road is because he got sick. But now understand that I take this sort of personal because I had conversations with him when he got to be older, and especially when he got to be in his 60s, late 60s and early 70s, and then coming down to 75. And his conversations with me was always of how he thought that people had forgot who he was. Now, people loved him and they still remember him and people still invited him. But there was a shift that took place in his life because he was on the road all that time, giving his life to ministry. He bought a house and all that stuff. But when he got older, people were inviting other people and they were not necessarily inviting him. And then he was still busy, but not as busy as he was before. And then those that really knew him in his day had gotten older, they were dying off. And then you had a whole new generation that really didn't know of his historical ministry or what he had brought to the table as far as ministry was concerned. And so we had those conversations where he would sort of feel down about it and didn't feel good about it, and had to encourage him, let him know, you've done a good job. You set and made the way. I am a product of your work. I'm a product of what your ministry has meant. And even today, when you see me, I'm a product of what he instilled and what his ministry meant. So what I'm saying to you is understand that it's not just dealing with it physically and dealing with it just money-wise, but it's important for us to start dealing with it even mentally and emotionally, because if we don't deal with it, it can really affect the way we handle stuff. When you start understanding that things that you're getting older, as a young man, I started preaching when I was 15, and now I'm 57, just turned 57. That's a long jump. That's a long way. And I remember preaching so fast that I had to go back and hear what I was saying myself. But I've slowed down over the years, and understanding that now what I've got to do is I've got to employ and put some other things in place. And this is what the Lord gave me this morning. And I want to leave this with you before I leave. But he gave me this morning and said to me that we need each other, whether we believe it or not. This is why we must prepare. Those of us that are here on the scene now must prepare the next generation. And then the next generation, we must never forget those that are preparing us. You should always honor your fathers and the mothers and those that have, in many cases, moved out the way to let you on the stage. And you've got to remember them. And the Lord gave me this morning. Sometimes if you're not careful, you can have strength without wisdom. See, it makes no sense, makes no never mind, as they used to say, the old people used to say, if you got the strength, but you don't have any wisdom. Sometimes we've got the strength, but we don't have no wisdom. And so we've got to hook up with somebody that got wisdom that can help us with our strength. And then there's sometimes when we get older, we've got wisdom, but we don't have the strength. And so that's why we've got to learn to get with those that may have wisdom, that may not have the strength that we have, but they can impart wisdom into us to help us to be able to do some things. I was watching some recently, I think there was a rerun of Bishop Jake's program when he was on television, and he said to one of the young ladies that said she was a millennial, and she said, I can't buy a house, I can't do this, I can't do that. And Bishop Jake stopped her and said, yes, you can. You can buy a house. You can do whatever you want to. But what you've got to learn to do is you've got to learn to come talk to us that have already done it. And you cannot let the secrets die with the fathers, because there's some things that we know that you need to know, and it will help you with your strength. You apply some of our wisdom and your wisdom, then you're going to be effective in the world and effective in what you're doing. And so I want to say to you today that we must start preparing for life after evangelistic ministry. And even if you're a pastor, you got to start preparing. Sometimes you just never know. You never know what's going to take place, what's going to happen. We all want to be healthy and stay strong, but we want to put ourselves and our families in positions, and that if something happened to us, whether we can move or not or whatever, that we have put things in place that we will have a life that can say, I did some planning for my life. I put some things away from my life because I understood, and I still understand, that I won't be doing this the rest of my life. You know, some people will do it, but there are those, you're not going to be doing this the rest of your life. That's the reality. I know we don't want to talk about that. I know you don't even want to hear it. And I know people don't want to tell you, but I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. You're not going to be here and doing these things the rest of your life. Somewhere down the road is going to slow down, or you're not going to be in demand. People are not going to be calling you. Your phone not going to be ringing. Your engagement book will not be filled. I've talked to people that said to me, Pastor Martin, man, my revival, I was doing 50, 60, 70 revivals a year. I was on the road constantly every week. And I've talked to people who say, well, I haven't done a revival. I haven't done but 3 revivals in 2 years. I haven't done, I've talked to people who say, I haven't done 2 revivals this whole year. Well, that's a shift. And when those things happen, we have to be prepared for it. So we have to start putting things away and putting our monies together and start making plans and doing things that we will be able to deal with that. And by all means, mentally and physically deal with it, that it'll bless us. Well, I pray and trust that you have received this tonight. Thank you so much. Many of you that have joined me tonight, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And I see Pastor Wilson on here. God bless you. See my cousin Melissa. I appreciate you. It's just a blessing to have y'all with us tonight. And I pray and trust. I saw earlier my friend on here, Pastor Gatlin, and see my old classmate here, Sandy Osby Frazier. Amen. See you on here. And so I want us to do this. So I want us to make sure that you share this with somebody. Let's pray, because I want God to bless us. These things that I'm doing are not about numbers. I know there are people that get on and they like to brag about, oh, if I had the numbers. Listen, I don't care about numbers. I want to help somebody. And I appreciate those that I get inbox and emails from that say to me, Pastor Martin, you helped me. That really blessed me. It really helped me. And that's my endeavor, is to help somebody while we're doing this, and let you know that it is something that we must have. And we've got to have teaching more than dancing and shouting. We got to set our house in order. We got to get some stuff. No need of being sharp. Let me say this, and I'm going to pray. You know, no need of going to convocations and meetings and being clean and sharp as a tack, as they say, and then don't have money to pay your bills when you get home. That's poor planning. I mean, you sharp, but don't have, you impressing folk in the meeting, in the convocation, and you can't pay your rent. You're impressing folk in the convocation and the meetings and stuff, and you can't, no, that's not cool. You need to learn to invest in yourself, start putting some things away, and understand what's most important for you. And if you do that, then you'll be blessed. Father, I thank you, and I give you praise and honor for those that are watching. I pray that you would bless them and move for them, God, even as we make preparations and prepare for, God, the life after evangelistic ministry. God, we know you called us. We know your hand is upon us. We know you blessed us. But God, we pray that you would touch us and move for us. And we pray that you would, oh God, give us the wisdom that we need to do the things we need to do. We thank you right now, and we bless you right now, God, that lives will be touched and changed. There'll be those, God, that will move from this time, this lesson, this session, and go out and begin to make the necessary adjustments and changes in their lives to cause things to happen for their future. And we give you praise, honor, and glory for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pray that you have been blessed tonight. I pray that God has shared something with you. And I pray that you would go on. God bless you, Pastor Wilson. Amen. I know you do some other things of streaming for income. Do what you do, man. And just let the Lord bless you and be encouraged, because I know God will bless you for doing so. Well, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you again so much for joining. And I appreciate all of you. We'll be back on next week. We'll be sharing. And I know God is going to bless us. And so until then, I see you next week. God bless you. May God bless you, and may all God's best be yours.